have a very, very, very special guest that we're really excited to share with you today. Chris?
All right, so I gotta read her bio off my phone because it's one, like I'm going through your bio, Sid, and like there's Wikipedia pages, there's like every single thing. So, you know, my bio's like 1 or 2 lines. She is accomplished, so let's get into it. Cydni Tetro, CEO of Brandless, one of the fastest growing companies in America, is an innovator of experience, a growth leader, technologist, STEM advocate, author, and speaker. We're just getting started with this bio, so hang on.
And listen up, because you want to hear.
She recently raised $118 million. The largest fundraise by a woman. She has been...
Let's go, let's go!
All right. Look at this. She has been recognized as CEO of the Year, Woman of the Year, Contributor of the Year, Top 10 Coolest Entrepreneurs, received Stevie Awards for Entrepreneur of the Year and Innovator of the Year. Oh my God, I wish I had one of these years. And been recognized as one of the most successful businesswomen to watch. Cydni, Sid, is the CEO of Brandless, a mission-driven omni-channel commerce platform that is blowing up, and that I added that, and growing through technology and the acquisition of mission-driven brands. They're acquiring, I think, a company a day, it seems like. All right, let's go crazy. Bring it up for Cyd Tetro. Let's go, Sid!
Get it up, get it up!
Thank you. That was very nice of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Keep it going!
Woo! You guys are awesome. Okay, everyone needs that hype squad. So we're just like bringing that with us every time. I'm super honored to be here and to spend a little bit of time with you guys. I love all the messages you've been sharing and the experiences that you've had and just the thoughts that you're sharing. So it's my honor to spend a little bit of time with you today and just share a few thoughts and ideas about the things that you're thinking about. All of you are thinking about how do you grow your businesses? How do you step into the thing that you're trying to accomplish? So I'm hoping during our time today, I can share just a few things that help you inspire to how you're gonna build what you're trying to build. When you leave here, what do you go do next? What does that look like? And how do you take everything that comes with that, all the ups and downs that you'll surely take from here? And so much of it is about mindset. So I'm going to talk about the blue sky mindset. Before I jump into it, I have a question for you. When I say blue sky, what comes to mind? Unlimited. What else? Limitless. What did you say?
Blue sky securities laws in each state.
Oh, so you go to the laws in each state. Okay. Oh, the Sky Club Lounge. Okay, yeah, I see where you're going already. Yeah. What did you say? Freedom. Okay, so all of these imagery come to mind, right? I want you to next time, not probably when you're in New York City, but you look up into the blue sky, right? And when you step into the blue sky and you look up and there's no clouds in the sky, it is limitless. There are actually no boundaries. You can see forever and you can imagine every possibility that is in front of you. I want you to do that the next time you're in front of the blue sky. Because I want you to think about is, what does that mean for you? What is the idea that if there were no limits? Because in life, we are our biggest limiters. We know all of our own constraints. We know the constraints of our business, whether it's cash, whether it's skill set, anything that's in our life, we know the limits. And you know what happens is it limits our thinking. So we get in this place where we're like, oh yeah, that could be a good idea, but here's the 50 reasons I will never go after it. Right, we all do this, right? And we do it before we even get started. And we don't even step into the space and say, hey, let's go do this. We're like, oh yeah, I can't do that. So that's what I want to talk about today, is how we get past that. Now I'm going to share a bunch of stories along the way as we talk and then as we interact. So I had an opportunity to spend 6 years at Disney. And my job at Disney was to make businesses inside of Disney based on technology and spin them into everything from theme parks merchandise to consumer products to ESPN to ABC. It was an amazing time in my career. And inside of Disney, we had a group called the Blue Sky Group. And the entire purpose of this group was to think about what could be. If there were no limits and we wanted to create this immersive guest experience, what could we do? What could we change for them? How could we transform them? And every day, all that group did was think about that. Invented millions of things you'll never see, but they were these ideas that were grounded in no limits and unlimited possibilities. So one of the projects had an opportunity to do, you can turn the volume down on the video, it's fine. Has anyone been to Disneyland? Yeah. Okay, I totally love Disney, so we're just going there. This is World of Color. I kind of call it the Bellagio on steroids. And it's got like fire and screens and lights. One of the ideas that we had, and I want you to notice all the lights are actually Mickey ears that are glowing with the show control system. So when you stand in the audience, no longer are you just a spectator. You're actually immersed in the story. So we asked ourselves this question: what would happen if at nighttime spectaculars, you didn't just watch, but you participated? What could we do? And so we had this idea that came out of a bunch of R&D of like, let's use the technology to put you in story. Let's create an experience that's emotional, that connects you to what we're doing, and create the possibility. That was actually the opening, when we launched it at the opening of Cars Land in California, and then it went across all of the theme parks in the world. But it was this idea that, hey, wonder if we do this. Now in Disney, lots of things like Star Wars Land, if anyone has ever been to that, take a very long time to come because of all the infrastructure and work to do. We launched this project in 6 months. We had this idea, we showed it in the fall about this time, and we said, this could transform the experience in the parks. Let's launch that. And then we solved all of the problems that came with it. Because we had this mindset of why not? Let's just jump in and do it. Problems are gonna come. We had plenty of things, challenges we had to solve, but sometimes you just have to jump in and do the things that will change the direction. You all have paper in front of you. I want you to write down one of the ways you're trying to grow your business. You're all here because you're doing something that's building a business that's tied to the marketing and the PR. When you think about everything you've learned this week, what's one thing and place you're trying to focus to grow your business? And just write it down on a piece of paper. We're going to kind of use it as we go through our time together. All of us have ways we think of growing. When you walk out of here, what are you going to do to start pushing on the accelerator? Okay, so everyone's got something written down? Okay, because I want you to be thinking about that as we kind of have our next discussion here. So when you think about growing and scaling businesses, which is one of the things that I think about all of the time, is how do we scale businesses? How do we grow them? How do we create acceleration inside of our opportunities? So Steve Jobs said, innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. All of you are here because you want to lead in your category, whatever it is, right? That's the place you're trying to go. So if you want to be a leader, you have to be grounded in innovation and big ideas. Because you have to find what you are uniquely qualified to bring. Why people buy you over someone else. And when you think about this mindset that it takes to grow and scale, it takes us into this idea that we think about from the innovation model. So all of you just wrote down something that you're going to do to grow your business, right? Well, when we think about growth in our businesses, the first place we always go is actually in the bottom of the pyramid. We come up with ideas that are going to excel us in operations. Like if we just did this better, if we acquired more customers, if we did more of this marketing, if we just do the things that we would all say, if you told me your business plan, I would say, those are exactly the things we would all agree you should do. But maybe they don't push the limits of what you could become. So you think about innovation, you think about, and do you know what? Big companies are really good at the bottom one because they have business models that ground them there. But what we really want to do is get to the top. Where entrepreneurship and innovation comes in the entire country is because people create radical innovations that change the game. Come up with new ideas, new ways to solve problems, new ways to address the needs of consumers that other people have never thought about. That's how you change the game. So as you start to think about how you drive growth, we put them into 3 types of buckets. We put them into this idea that there's grounded ideas. Think about the idea that you just wrote down. Is it a grounded idea? When you tell someone about what you're doing, would they think about it as incremental and obvious and something that you should absolutely go do? Would they think about it as blue sky? It's completely novel. It's forward-looking. It's fresh. No one's doing it. Or would they think about it as a completely spaced out idea that's laughable and whimsical and crazy, but if it were possible, transformative. Spaced out space and the blue sky space are one of our greatest challenges to start to move our mind to think about, because those big ideas, they change the world. Those big ideas, if we can accomplish them, that's how we solve world's problems, it's how we make an impact, it's how we transform businesses. That's our challenge, is to move to that space. So I want to talk a little bit about ways that we can think about putting our mindset in that to drive growth and scale in things that we're building. First, I'm going to talk about how you be open. Now, everything that I've heard today, this is the mindset I think you're all in already, because that's what we're trying to get you to do, is to think differently and solve problems in new and different ways. So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories and kind of rules that I think are really important when you're scaling and growing, both as an individual and as a business. So my first one is this idea of don't be afraid to go for it. So let me tell you about the time when I got the opportunity to go to Disney. So my entire career has been built in technology. I did my undergrad in computer science. I was one of 3 women in my graduating class from computer science, and I've built my career building companies and products. And doing that just like all of you with the family and all of the other priorities that come across life. So I'd been working in my corporate jobs for a number of years, doing all of those things that we do, and I was coming off of a company, and I got a phone call from a guy that I had worked with, a colleague of mine, who had gone to run Disney research inside of Imagineering. And he had been the chief technology officer when I was the chief marketing officer. And Tom called me and he said, "Hey, Sid, I think you should come and take an advantage of the thing that we're building at Disney. We need entrepreneurs who understand technology, and I think you would be awesome." I said, "That's super interesting." So I flew down for an interview. I talked to Tom, and I flew back, and he calls me, and he's like, "Okay, Sid, you've got the job. But here's the deal. This is a brand new job for us. We have no long this job will be for. Could be for 3 months, could be for 6 months. Could be amazing, might not work out. We've never tried it before, but you should totally do it." It will be great. That was my job offer. And I was like, well, I thought for maybe 5 seconds. And I said, I'm going to do it. Because when was I going to get a call from Disney again to take that opportunity? I was never going to get the call again. It was never going to come my way. And at that moment, it changed the course of my career. I didn't know if I would be there for 3 months. I didn't know if it would be 6 months. I stayed for just under 6 years. And it changed every path that I've had the opportunity to take advantage of, because I wasn't afraid in the moment to jump into the unknown. I can promise you, I did not know it was going to happen in 3 months. But the call came, and I'm a very big believer that you can't be afraid of taking the opportunities that come to you, for all of the reasons that we might choose to hold ourselves back. So another thing I want you to think about is that in order to execute scale and growth, you have to turn ideas into action. So I had an opportunity to build a company once I left Disney where we could literally make you Iron Man. So we built a 3D printing platform where we would scan your face. Eventually, Hasbro built an action figure for us in the Star Wars and the Marvel line, and we launched it all over. We were focused in entertainment and sports and gaming. And this, again, was an opportunity. I'm a big believer that one of the greatest strengths you can have in building businesses is activation. The opportunity to take ideas and turn them into action. Lots of people have ideas. All of the ideas we can think about, people have thought about. There are lots of smart people. The people who win in the world of building are the ones who can execute. Like, that's our job now, right? To take everything that you've learned here and to step into this place where you can execute things in front of you. So I'm going to just give you a quick story. We decided to launch this company at Comic-Con in San Diego, which is the best Comic-Con of all of them. Yeah, it is. Exactly. It totally is. Okay, we'll talk later. Okay, New York, maybe. Okay. So in the San Diego Comic-Con, it's everything you can imagine a Comic-Con might be, in every aspect of San Diego. And we were just launching as a company. So we had this scanning station. We were in this booth. We had a partner who had given us a 10 by 10 because there's no way we could afford to have been there. And we could scan you and make you Iron Man, or a guy named MODOK, who's a mechanical organism designed only for killing that no one knows about, but he's in the Star Wars or in the Marvel universe. So you could scan yourself and become those. The line was 1,000,000 miles long. And when we left Comic-Con, the Walmart called me. And they said, Sid, how many Walmarts could you launch in for Superhero September? This is in June, at the end of June. And I'm like, okay. first of all, am I ever getting that call again? I'm not getting that call again if I do not take advantage of it in that exact moment. I'm like, well, I just only launched one experience. I've never been in a bunch of them. I don't know how many I can actually get to. Oh, and by the way, I have a product that really works well for a higher price point of $139. These are all like running through my mind. In order to launch a product successfully in Walmart, I need to get under 50 bucks. How am I going to do that? Oh, I need a toy line. So I start down this path. Well, to get a toy line, you actually need Hasbro, who owns the global toy license for all of Marvel. Never talked to those guys before, but I'm going to go find them. This is seriously the end of June. We pick up the phone. We find the guy at Hasbro. Within 60 days, we actually launch in Walmart with a superhero toy line, which is crazy. And when I look back on it, I still don't know how we made it happen. Because the process included everything from us taking superhero, like action figure, Titan action figures, popping their heads off, replacing them with 3D printed ones, repackaging them, and shipping them to customers. I have kept all the heads, and they are still at my house. That's fine. I'm going to make a statue someday out of them. Because they represent this moment in time where we were willing to take an idea, turn it into action to make something happen. And that moment then turned into us launching in Targets the following year, an install in Times Square when Toys R Us was here, all of the things that built the company. From that, we took down all of the major, like we had an MLB license, an NFL license, Major League Soccer, we had a Yankees Stadium install, all those things, because we were willing to answer yes, and it was imperfect. I didn't start by saying yes, thinking I was taking heads off action figures. That is not the plan that I had on the business plan. That is not how it worked, but we did it. And when you're building and scaling companies, I can guarantee you there's a crisis every day, and I promise it's not a straight line. So if you want to build and scale, you have to deal with all the ups and downs, all the turns, but go all in on being willing to take the opportunities that come in front of you to build what you want to build. Another thing that I've learned as I've done this is I've kind of coined this term called deal sense. Negotiated a lot of deals, and it's not just from fundraising. I view deals as any relationship that we're building. Every day you're building relationships with employees, with partners, with investors, stakeholders, anyone who's helping you build. Your ability to understand how you create value between each other and read that and adapt your message is critical to your success. And sometimes you step into a room and you have this entire pitch done of what you need. And if you step back and observe, the person across the table doesn't need to hear that, they need to hear something else. How well you can adjust in real time is a critical factor to being able to grow and scale. You only get deals done, you only build relationships when you appreciate what the other person needs. And if you can't step back and do that because I've got this pitch deck and I'm super nervous and I want to tell them everything, but if you can't step back, then you end up not getting anything out of that room that you needed. So there's a whole other conversation around the details of deal sense, but I wanted you to think about that. Every day you create relationships. They are really the only thing that matters in the world. How people perceive you, how you build relationships, what you do to motivate people, what you do to create value for other people, that's what matters. And so that's what we have to become good at, is getting to the place the other person needs us to be at in order to help them also see value so they in turn can help us. So when I think about being open, when I think about the blue sky mindset, these are core tenets to being able to move that to scale our businesses. What I love is the opportunity for you to share insights you have with other people, because their perspective also opens up your mind. It's one of the things I would constantly challenge you to do in building your business is get outside perspective, which you've been doing this week, but in just the day-to-day growth. They don't have the same limitations. They don't even think of the same definitions of words that you think about. And they can push your ideas much stronger than what you think about on a daily basis. Okay, I want to talk about a couple of other things as we're going through. So I want to talk about this idea of how you explore getting to new things that could push the limits of growth. In the software world, we call it this agile development mindset, which means we don't really believe we have the answers, but what we have is a methodology to test and optimize and pivot. And what I love about that methodology is that it trains us to not believe that we have to solve everything today, but to introduce ideas and to see if they work and to talk to the right people and figure out if we can validate and then adjust and constantly adjust in real time. That's how we build software products today. Instead of trying to build this huge thing that when we get to the end, no one wants, we take those increments, we build minimum viable products, we introduce them to market, and then we continue to iterate them in order to make sure that people love what we take to market. That mindset is true in everything that we do. We can't answer every question. We can't possibly do all of that. And sometimes it will paralyze us in our ability to move forward. So I want you to think about a couple of things. We also don't have to listen to music but once I had an idea that I should integrate technology and dance. I did my minor in dance, which was the complete opposite of computer science. And I wanted this opportunity, so we worked with this professional dance company, and the balls they're holding have accelerometers in them, which is the same thing that's in your phone that tells you how fast you're going. And we wanted them to have balls with the accelerometers in them so that as they danced, it created art. It was just a complete idea. I'm like, I think we can integrate dance and tech. I want to inspire these high school girls to pursue STEM careers, and I want them to see an idea like this. Because if they see it, maybe they're inspired. Now, we did nothing more than this one performance with this. But it created a different mindset for how we could integrate the two, for how we could take that forward, for how we could inspire people. You have to be willing to try new ideas, even if you do them one time. Even if the outcome, you're like, I can't monetize that, I don't know how to scale that, but one time, it was really cool, and I learned a bunch of things, and I went to the next step. That's what you have to do. You also have to try, not only do those, but you have to do new things all the time. So over the course of my career, I've done a ton of tech companies, none of which have been in the same industry ever. So I didn't step into tech and say, I'm only doing enterprise software and I'm going to stay with this. Every company that I've stepped into was something I didn't know before. When I went to Disney, I can promise you I did not know AI and 3D printing and visualization and robotics. But I had to learn all of those things. And so I've always been open to doing those new things. These are just some examples of some logos, specifically because for one of my companies, I decided I wanted relationships with all the sports guys. I don't know any of them. It was not my industry. I did not come from building those relationships, but I knew I needed them. So I called one of my friends who was really connected in the sports industry, and I said, Nate, will you help me do this? And he took me into all of those meetings, helped me set up all of those relationships, and I built in another entirely new ecosystem that I didn't naturally have exposure to. It's out of my comfort zone. I don't talk all their same language. I don't know all of their ecosystems, but I was bold enough and willing enough to go into those rooms and learn from someone and do those things. You have to have that mindset. You don't know every person who could help your business. You've met some here. You're going to meet them along your path. Networks are your most powerful ally to building. So take advantage of them continuously. And you have to be willing to learn new skills. At every stage of your life, you never can stop learning. You can never stop growing. So this is a picture. A couple months ago, we had an opportunity to go to Tanzania and work with some young women. And there's a whole other story about this amazing woman who had started this initiative, but we went to meet these young women. These young women are living in a city called Moshi, which is at the base of Kilimanjaro. And most of these young women who live in villages have pasts that are not great for the rest of their lives. It's a very poor region. They don't have a ton of education, even though they all go to school. And a friend of mine created an opportunity for these girls to go learn new skills, to change the destinies of their families and their communities. And every one of these young women that we worked with and taught with for the week that we were there, they were inspiring because they put themselves in a situation that they almost knew nothing about. They came in and they learned computers and they learned technology and they learned business plans. They learned marketing. They learned things that they in any other way would have no exposure to do. And then they had pathways into new jobs that didn't put them into places where it would be dangerous for them. And then by doing that, they make money for their families. They can make money for their future generations. These young women were an amazing example in a very unique situation of girls willing to change their future because they were willing to learn something they did not know. So let's be like them. Let's learn the things we don't know. Let's find those people around us. Let's surround ourselves with those great people and learn all of the things that will help us build great companies and great businesses. Okay, so this time I want you to you've just had 2 conversations. We've talked a little bit about things. I want you to write on your paper one of the things that you think is holding you back from the big growth that you could have for the business you're building. Just one. Is that what I heard you say? There might be more. We'll just start with one. Just like you were talking about earlier today, there are always things that hold us back. There's always fears that we have that are preventing us from taking the next steps. Okay, so keep that in your mind as we talk through our next section here. So the thing you have to do to build a company is commit. You must show up all in every day to the things that you want to do. If you are halfway in, you will not become successful. And success is not just money. It's not even money. It is the impact that you have in the places that you show up. So you have to commit to do the things that are most meaningful to you in your life. And you set those priorities, and then you do all of them with everything that you can be. So there's a couple things that I want to share with you around how you can possibly do that. I call this idea that I do not believe in a zero-sum game. Let me explain what I mean. There are some people that you will interact with that believe that for them to win, you must lose. That is fundamentally not true. And I choose also to not be that person. So you have to be willing to make sure that everyone around you wins when you win. Every person that works with you, every person that you interact, and the people who don't believe that, do not work with them. Like, step away, do not engage them. They will do nothing to help you build. Any person that believes there is a zero-sum game will never be someone you should put in your life. And for all of us who have had those people across our lives, you know that's true. Because we've all done that. We unknowingly did it, or something comes up after the fact that we wish we would have known. The faster you can distance yourself from people who don't believe we can both win, the more successful you will be, and the more you can make a difference for others around you. So be the person who lifts every person up, who creates value, who finds value, and who navigates success. You guys are also my favorite audience ever. You guys are awesome. I also am a big believer that you should build things that matter. One of our responsibilities is to use our talents to help other people in whatever way that means for you. About 14 years ago, I had an opportunity to create a nonprofit called the Women Tech Council, which has been really focused on how we increase the number of women in tech from high school to the boardroom. And for me, it's just a passion of mine because I've been one of the only women in that room, and I know what a difference it can make to be able to be in a workforce that pays 139% of average, that changes the trajectory. And for me, I have 3 kids. Tech has also enabled me to be present in the things that matter most to me. I will always choose the soccer game and the red eye over anything else in my life. And that's just how I decided to take my career. There have been moments where I turned down jobs because I knew they would put me on the road all the time. And I just wasn't willing to make that sacrifice. So we all have to decide where we spend time. For me, this has been one of them. So we started a program called SheTech. It's a high school program to inspire young women with role models and mentors to enter the STEM field. We've had about 30,000 high school girls go through the program over the last 7 years, a couple thousand every year. And these young women, they're inspiring because when they come and they see who they can be, because they never knew who they could really become, you are changing lives. I choose to spend my time building things that this will never make me rich. That is not the reason I do it. But I believe one of my responsibilities in life is to do things like this. So to take people around me and to try to lift them up and to give back in ways that are meaningful to me, because it leaves a bigger lasting impact. And it's not really about me. It's just about using my talents to build something that's meaningful for other people. And as I've heard many of your missions and the reasons you're here, you are already thinking that way, but you have to be really intentional. If you're not intentional about the decisions for where you spend time, then we end up spending our time in the wrong places. Because we have a million things to do. There's a million priorities every day. Every time when I wake up in the morning, I can promise you my day does not look like it was supposed to. Right? There's an emergency at every stage. Family life is colliding with work life, colliding with everything else. But you have to have those North Stars that tell you why you're doing something and where you're willing to focus and how you prioritize. So build things that matter in your ecosystems. Make the world a better place because of that. I also believe that you have to be the person who opens doors of opportunities for other people. I find myself thinking about this very deeply recently, which is the responsibility that I believe I have to give access to anything that I have to other people who could be able to have faster or quicker paths because of that. To put more people around the table, to invite one more person to do something, to accelerate someone's career opportunity because of that, to create another connection for them. Because when you do this, when you open doors of opportunity, it inevitably comes back to you in a way you can never imagine. And it's not the reason to do it, but it is what happens. When we started building Women Tech Council 14 years ago, I couldn't have told you the thousands of women that I would, and men, women and men that I would meet that would change my career and my outlook on life, but it happened. And that allows me today to build teams that have significant amount of diversity and inclusion in them because my network's different and because I can see the things that I can help other people do. Now, when you do this, when you open doors of opportunity, not because you expect something else in return, you help the people around you, and they too get where they're supposed to go, and along the way, you get pulled with them, and you become their cheerleaders and their advocates and their support ecosystem. With that, I have this rule that I call living by the rule of one more. So this is my friend in the middle. She's an Olympic medalist. Her name's Shannon Barkey Happy, and she is totally happy all the time, and she has pink hair, and she is fabulous. And we were skiing at Deer Valley, which is where she won one of her medals. And she was telling me about this idea that she had early in her training career. She said, every time I sat down to do squats or sit-ups or push-ups, I decided I'd just do one more. And of course, it might be hard in the moment. It was just one. Right? I'll just do one more in this moment. And over the course of time, it made her a lot stronger. She was in 3 Olympics. She won 2 medals. And she said this was a really big part of how she built one more tiny thing that almost meant nothing in the moment, but added up over the course of time. So apply that to our own lives. Wonder if we just do one more thing to help someone else that doesn't take anything from us. It doesn't take hardly anything when you're invited to a networking event to invite someone. When someone asks you to do something, but you don't have time to give the opportunity to someone else. To pull someone else into your office and take them to a meeting, to put someone else in a boardroom. It takes almost no time from you. It doesn't decrease the value that you have. It changes their world. That is what we should be doing. We should live by this idea of one more because it will change everything for other people and takes almost no work from you. And when you do that over the course of your time and career, then it makes an impactful difference in what you can build, what you can become, and the success that you'll have. That's what we should do, is do those tiny things that don't make your life harder, don't add more to your to-do list. They just take an intentional thinking to do something more than just forget about something and move on. So that's one of my challenges for you, is to find a way to intentionally do one more thing every day for someone else. And in doing so, I promise it will change the growth of your company and you as an individual. Okay, so I'm going to pull you back for a moment to a couple of things I want you to think about. One is, it is okay to build what you have today and be grounded in your ideas, but you can never forget the blue sky mentality. You must operate there, and it takes a bunch of training to get your mind to think in a space that isn't constraint built. We, by nature and by design, are limited. It's our limits that hold us back on everything that we want to accomplish, personally and professionally. And you've been talking about a lot of those. We already rewired our brain this morning, which is part of the fundamental strategy of this. I want to share a story that I had an opportunity to meet the gentleman who did this. Hopefully, will you hit play on the video? It might not autoplay. Hopefully it will. Might just have to click on the video and then it should have a play button. There we go. Okay, so this is a video of a guy that I met, and he had this idea, and I think this is just really inspiring. So in the Sudan, there have been a lot of mines, and a lot of children have lost limbs because of this. And so this happens to be a story of a kid named Daniel. And a friend of mine decided, and this was when I was in the 3D printing world, that he could potentially go to the Sudan and help create prosthetics for children who had lost limbs, because prosthetics for children are really expensive. They grow quickly, you can't get enough of them in, the infrastructure just isn't there. And so he went down there and he took all of this infrastructure, and this is an example of a 3D printer, and they built these working hands through the 3D printers prior to when he got there. And he flew down there and he took the 3D printer and some computers, and they met Daniel, and Daniel had lost both of his arms from mines. It was about 3 years prior to them going down. And he hadn't been able to even feed himself over the course of those 3 years, as you can imagine. And so they went there, and you can see them here, fitting him for a prosthetic. This is fully 3D printed on the ground in the Sudan. And this is the first time that he'd then since had a working hand. The ability, as you'll see, to feed himself for the first time in 3 years. And what's so cool about what this is and what it could be is that it was an idea to change the world. It was an idea to make people's lives better. For Daniel and for all of those children in the same situation, not only did it just help him, but it was an infrastructure that got left in the city. They trained all of the nurses and doctors how to use the 3D printer, how to adjust it for the size of those individual children, how to make something for them that was really not going to be accessible, but was sustainable in their own community. Like, that's powerful. That's amazing, right? Like, it's really moving to watch, because you know how life-changing that was. And the fact that, an arm was printed a week after they left that. When you think about what you're doing and the impact that you can have, all ideas are transformative in the markets that you're in. What it takes is the willingness to take super big ideas and make a difference for all of those people who sit around you. And you can't do it by just having an idea. You fundamentally have to be willing to do the work. Success doesn't come free. It doesn't come without a price. There is always a sacrifice. So you have to not only be willing to come here, you have to be willing when you step back at home, wherever that is, train, plane, automobile, to do everything that you have to do to get the result that you want. And you're going to make all these things that we're talking about. You're going to take pivots. You're going to take deviations from that path. But you have to decide what you're willing to do and how far you're willing to go and what the outcome is you're willing to be. Because people like Mick, they change the world for someone. It's a story you don't all know before. It doesn't matter. It changed the lives of those individual people forever. It changes what he can become, how he can live his life, the quality of life that he can have. And you can do the same thing in all of your own arenas. Be meaningfully impactful for the people that you can do work with and that you can change their lives for. I think that's the greatest challenge we all face, is how do we leave this world better than when we came? How do we leave every person that we touch, every community that we're in, every experience better than the one before? I specifically have a kind of a criteria that I evaluate how good I did in any given situation. So when I have people who work for me and I do all of those things, I actually think about, will these people work for me again? And if the answer is no, then I know I failed. I did not do the things that leveraged their talents, that made them better than when they started, that gave them paths to success. Now, every person's not going to like me. That's also true. I totally get that. But my stewardship in working with other people is to help them along that path. If they will work for me again, I did something meaningful for them. If they will not work for me again, then I think I have personally failed. And that reflection has allowed me to continue to grow and to think past the limits that I have, because I have them too. Right? I'm imperfect in my execution. I make mistakes all of the time. There's plenty of failure at every step of my career. This is just inevitable in what we're building. It's really about how we approach it, how we treat the people, and how we navigate the things that were unexpected. And our willingness to step into that and realize that we can imagine the possibilities, and then we can really make those happen along the way. So when you think about being limitless and you think about the blue sky, because the next time you see a blue sky, you're all gonna stare up at the sky and you're not gonna see any limits. There's no clouds, there's no obstruction of your view. You're going to find a way to think about all the things that could be true and then find the way to make them happen. That's your challenge. That's what you should walk away from this experience doing, is knowing that you can do everything that's in front of you. You don't have to be the limiter, and you have great potential to make a difference in the world. And that's what we should all be doing every day of our lives, is making a difference for the people around us. So, you guys, thanks. So in that charter, just be fearless. This is the Puerto Moreno Glacier in Argentina, and I had a chance to hike it. It's amazingly beautiful. It's one of the few living glaciers in the world, and as you step onto the glacier, all you do is hear cracking ice around you. And as you hike on this glacier, you'll look down to the side, and there are like 200-foot crevices that you could just slide to your death on at any moment. That's how it feels. And then as you hike across that, it just really makes you reflect and think about the fact that even though this is true, the experience that you're on is magnificent. And that you can jump over that crevice, you can hike around it, you can accomplish all of the things that you're fearful of in that moment, to have this amazing experience and this opportunity to do something that you didn't think was possible. So I challenge you, do that in your everyday life. Do one more thing to make a difference for someone else. And in doing so, you will scale and grow amazing businesses that do exactly what you want to accomplish in your life, for your family, for your community, and for others. Thank you guys for being here.
Woo! Give it up! Wow! Wow!
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That was amazing. Amazing.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys.
Give it up! Give it up!
Thank you.